In the last episode, I covered everything that happened in the universe before the Emperor's rise. Now it's time to discover how his story began, what changed with his arrival, and why the history of the Imperium of Mankind truly begins with him. So grab your data slates, make yourselves comfortable. The archive opens its doors once again. The origins of the man who would much later be hailed as the Emperor are shrouded in darkness, his true name lost to the swirling vortex of the past. However, several legends exist, though many of them fiercely contradict one another. According to one myth, the Emperor is a fusion of the souls of a collective of shamans from ancient Terra. But this theory never gained much traction among the populace. According to one of the best preserved accounts, the Emperor once personally showed one of his attendants these events of the distant past, though it is impossible to say for certain whether it was the truth or not. So, according to these visions, the future Emperor was born in the territory of Anatolia 8,000 years before the birth of Christ. Even from childhood, he possessed immensely powerful psychic abilities. The Emperor also belongs to a breed of beings known as perpetuals. This is an extremely rare mutation that grants the individual functional immortality, preventing them from aging. Their bodies can regenerate damage at incredible speeds, and should they die, they are reborn. This is precisely what allowed him to live for so long, remaining merely an observer for millennia. In every conceivable way, he stood above all other men. A genius scientist, engineer, and inventor, exceptionally talented in every form of art. A peerless warrior, a flawless appearance, and a breathtaking orator. There are countless unverified legends regarding the Emperor's deeds, including those from the ancient past. But the two most fascinating stories stand out above the rest. The first took place around the 11th or 12th century AD, near the city of Cyrene, in Libya. At that time, the future master of mankind was serving one of the local emperors, earning great martial glory before setting off to travel the lands of Libya. That was when he stumbled upon the city of Cyrene, which lived in absolute terror of a mighty entity that had settled nearby. The creature demanded a single maiden each day, feeding on their fear and growing stronger with every new sacrifice. This entity was an ancient Catan god known as the Void Dragon. I will tell you more about the Catan some other time. Soon, no young women remained in the city except for the king's own daughter. Just as the procession escorting the final sacrifice to the dragon left the city gates, they were overtaken by a gallant knight in golden armor, riding a mighty black stallion. He clashed in battle with the god and vanquished it. These events are chronicled in greater detail within the secret Martian archives, which describe in meticulous depth the schism of the Red Planet and the mysteries of the Noctis Labyrinth. According to some legends, realizing that he could not completely destroy the beast, the future Emperor learned many secrets of the Necrontyr and the Catan themselves during this encounter. Afterward, he imprisoned the creature on the neighboring planet of Mars, where, according to lore, the dragon dwells to this day. And if those same legends are to be believed, the dragon has spent all this time whispering technological secrets to the inhabitants of Mars, pursuing its own inscrutable goals. The humans, in turn, mistook this whispering for the voice of their machine god. But these are merely legends, and one should not blindly believe them. Besides, if you ever found yourself in the universe of Warhammer and spoke such things aloud, the Inquisition would have likely already executed you for heresy. The second legend has significantly more corroborating evidence, though it too can be questioned. It occurred at an indefinite time following the Dark Age of technology. the Emperor made a journey to the planet Molech alongside Olivia Surica, a woman who was also a perpetual and a quite powerful psyker. Molech harbored a gateway directly linked to the warp. The future Emperor stepped through the portal alone and stood before the faces of all 4 Chaos gods. The Emperor's daring plan involved a bargain with the ruinous powers. They would endow him with even greater power than he already possessed, and in return, he would offer them the conquered galaxy as a sacrifice. Except the Emperor had no intention of keeping his promise. His true goal was the ultimate triumph of mankind over every enemy in the galaxy, including the destructive powers themselves. Many believe that it was there that the Emperor obtained his unprecedented physical and psychic might, though it remains unknown exactly how he pulled it off. Some theories suggest the Emperor stole the power from the gods, while others claim he struck a deal. One thing is certain, he became a being without equal. Afterward, the Emperor left Molech to resume his observation of humanity and orchestrate his grand designs. By the end of the 29th millennium, the Emperor finally revealed himself to the world. One night, he came to the capital of one of the barbarian states on war-torn Terra, alongside his followers, and completely conquered the entire territory within hours. This marked the beginning of the Unification Wars. He crushed a massive army despite fielding only a few hundred soldiers. Such a feat was possible not only due to the Emperor's own incredible powers. A leader so mighty required an army to match. These were genetically modified soldiers whose strength, speed, reflexes, and endurance surpassed human capabilities by orders of magnitude. They were called the Thunder Warriors, and later they would be referred to as Proto-Astartes. This was the Emperor's very first attempt to engineer an army of superhumans to bring the galaxy to his feet. In terms of raw strength and ferocity, they surpassed even the Space Marines created later. However, their fatal flaw was an extremely short lifespan. They were the primary crushing force that swept away one state after another, reuniting Terra under the banner of a single ruler. Their equipment consisted of power armor that would later be designated as Mark I Thunder Armor. It was not unique to the Proto-Astartes. Similar armor was worn by the ordinary techno-barbarians who opposed the Emperor. Due to the complexities of mass production and a severe lack of resources, the armor was crafted locally. The design of each suit often varied, but every single piece of armor bore the image of a thunderbolt, the Emperor's lightning bolt symbol, known as the Raptor Imperialis. For armament, the Thunder Warriors utilized early models of bolters. The bolter is a firearm that fires specialized, self-propelled explosive ammunition. Along with power armor and the chainsword, the bolter is considered one of the primary symbols of Warhammer 40,000. During the Unification Wars, the bolter designs were bulky and crude, only acquiring a sleeker, more refined appearance in the future. But the Thunder Warriors were not the only ones forging victory for the Emperor. Even in the most ancient archives that miraculously survived the Age of Strife, the Unification Wars, and subsequent events, one can find records stating that from the very first days the Emperor revealed himself to humanity, massive warriors clad in gleaming gold armor and armed with long spears strode by his side. These are the most peerless warriors of mankind and the ultimate bastion of defense for the Emperor himself, the Legio Custodes. The process of their creation is veiled in total secrecy, and only the closest inner circle of the Master of Mankind was initiated into this mystery. The Custodians, as they would be called, stem directly from the Emperor, as his own genetic material is used in their creation. The technology required to transform an initiate, and only young boys can be chosen, is extremely complex, making the mass production of custodians impossible. While the Thunder Warriors were humans enhanced through genetic engineering, the members of the Legio Custodes can no longer be considered human in the conventional sense. Their very cells are rebuilt, their psyches broken down and reconstructed from scratch, and it is possible that the process alters the soul itself. They endure thousands of hours of brutal mental and physical trials. Their body and spirit must be unbreakable. However, not everyone survives these procedures. For every 1,000 candidates, only a single one survives, but in return, they become far more than just an elite guard. They are the next step in human evolution. Custom armor is crafted for each individual custodian. Every suit is considered a masterpiece of technological artistry, incredibly durable and feels like a second skin to the highly trained custodian. The armor is exquisitely adorned with gold, usually draped with crimson cloaks and capes. The weaponry of the Legio Custodes also showcases technological genius. Their guardian spears and halberds are fitted with built-in bolters, allowing them to effectively engage in ranged combat while wielding a single weapon. One of the most magnificent sights to behold in those days was the Emperor himself, leading his Golden Guard into battle. Step by step, the Emperor's army advanced across ravaged terror, uniting more and more people into a new state. The casualties of the war numbered in the millions, and though the majority were savage techno-barbarians, a portion consisted of ordinary civilians, and the Emperor understood the price of this sacrifice perfectly. However, he recognized that it was an absolute necessity to ensure the salvation of humanity and establish its dominance across the galaxy. Finally, in the ultimate battle at Mount Ararat, the last defiant barbarian kingdom fell, granting the Emperor absolute rule over the cradle of humanity. In essence, it was on this very day that the Imperium was born. Yet, that final battle also claimed the last remaining Thunder Warriors. Aric Tyrannus, one of the first Proto-Astartes, raised the Emperor's banner in the final minutes of the conflict, signaling victory, but tragically succumbed to his wounds. At least, that is how it is written in the Imperial archives. The reality, however, was far more brutal. Aric survived that battle and witnessed firsthand the betrayal of his master, who turned his other servants against the remaining Thunder Warriors. To the Emperor, they had played their part and were no longer needed by humanity. Nevertheless, a handful of Proto-Astartes managed to escape, and Aric himself would go into hiding for a time, only to resurface later and play yet another role in the history of the Imperium. As fate would have it, just as Terra was finally reunited, the warp storms of the long night also subsided, making interstellar space travel possible once again. Some even believe that the Emperor himself had a hand in calming the warp, though there is no definitive proof of this. During this time, the ruler of mankind was drawing up further plans to rescue the planets cut off from his domain and ensure their subsequent protection. During his research deep within the Himalayas, beneath Mount Everest, the Emperor discovered a device resembling an Aeldari gate, the entrance to the Webway. The Webway is a dimension existing between the material universe and the warp, a realm where demons cannot easily breach. The dimension itself is a labyrinth of unimaginable proportions, which only certain Aeldari can navigate. Thousands of identical gates are scattered across the galaxy, allowing those with the knowledge to travel quite rapidly and relatively safely to any corner of space. The Emperor hoped to utilize the Webway as a replacement for dangerous travel through the warp, though this required more time for research. The Emperor ordered a magnificent golden throne to be constructed around this gateway, having discovered that the device amplified psychic abilities. And where there is a throne, there must be a palace, the construction of which was also ordered. The imperial palace eventually encompassed the entire area of the former Himalayas, becoming the crown jewel of human architecture. The custodians became not only the personal guardians of the master of mankind, but also the primary sentinels of the palace. While researching the capabilities of the throne, the emperor created the Astronomicon, a psychic beacon visible only within the warp. It spanned 50,000 light-years around itself and helped navigators orient themselves within the shifting ocean of the immaterium. But it did not function solely by the emperor's will. To sustain the beacon, a choir of thousands of psykers was required. They inevitably burned out and perished from the constant concentration of raw psychic energy, but were immediately replaced by others. The creation of the Astronomicon greatly accelerated and facilitated the establishment of contact with the worlds lost during the long night. Naturally, one of the first planets the Emperor's servants established contact with was Mars. The Emperor understood perfectly well how valuable Mars was as an ally for humanity, and personally arrived for a meeting with the ruling Magoses, the supreme smiths and rulers of Mars. The Magoses deliberated for a long time on how to approach such a mighty being who had united a seemingly dying planet in such a short time. However, during their discourse, the master of mankind demonstrated his incredible sharpness of mind and extensive knowledge of science and technology. The rulers of the Red Planet were so awestruck that they almost unanimously hailed the Emperor as the Omnissiah, the earthly manifestation of the machine god. Yet not all the bright minds of Mars, known as the Mechanicum, accepted this decision. Small pockets of rebellion broke out, but lacking proper support, they quickly faded away. The Mechanicum and the Emperor signed the Treaty of Mars, according to which the scientists and smiths of the Red Planet would supply the Emperor with weapons, military hardware, and void ships. They would also handle their maintenance, while the Emperor guaranteed the sovereignty of Mars and pledged to hand over all recovered technologies and data fragments of the past. Mars became a state within a state, and the fruitful symbiosis of these two human civilizations would never be broken, even in the darkest hours. It was on the very day the treaty was signed that the Emperor's new coat of arms emerged. The Imperial Aquila, a two-headed eagle, one of whose heads is blind. The blinded head looked back into the past, while the sighted one gazed into the future. Since then, the Aquila has frequently adorned the buildings, vehicles, weapons, and armor of the Imperial forces. The Emperor had secured all the necessary tools to launch his grand plan to unite humanity. And thus began the history of the Great Crusade, a time of supreme glory and the most insidious betrayal. I have intentionally omitted what is perhaps the Emperor's most critical experiment, the creation of his 20 Primarch sons, an experiment that would forever reshape not only the Imperium itself, but the entire galaxy. It is this very undertaking that will spark the launch of the Great Crusade and set the universe ablaze.